Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rose.
It would be my pleasure. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting is given at the annual meeting notice, which was submitted to the Bergen Record and the Herald News, emailed to the office of the county clerk, and posted on PCCC website and bulletin boards on November 21st, 2024.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. Roll call, Stephanie.
Alumni Rep Buchanan, here. Trustee Oscar. Trustee Draper. Trustee Globen.
Present.
Trustee Diodene. Trustee Moody.
Present.
Trustee Nutter. Trustee Poe. Here. Trustee Ramirez.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Present.
Trustee Tanis. Present. Chairman Marco.
Present. Thank you, Stephanie.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to note that this is Assad that I'm present. Thank you.
Thank you, Assad.
Thank you. Okay, resolution number 1, consideration of the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting November 19th, 2024. Are there
I'll
any
move it.
changes to the minutes? No, somebody done?
Well,
Michael, thank you, Michael. Okay,
You're welcome.
Joel, second, okay.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Trustee Oscar.
Yes.
Trustee Globen.
Yes.
Trustee Moody.
Yes.
Trustee Poe. Trustee Ramirez.
yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Tanis.
yes,
Chairman Marco.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Organization of the board, election of the vice chair. Floor is open for nominations for the vice chair of the board.
I nominate Barbara Tanis for vice chairperson.
Okay, so we have
Joel, moving.
Second.
second by Sharon. Okay. Are there any other nominees? Hearing none.
Hearing none. No other nominations. We roll call on the motion to elect Bob Pettis as vice chair.
Trustee Oscar.
Yes.
Trustee Globen.
Yes.
Trustee Moody.
Yes.
Trustee Poe. Trustee Ramirez.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Tanis.
yes,
Chairman Marco.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Congratulations, vice chair.
Congratulations, Bob.
Okay, Dr. Rose, we have a presentation by our auditor.
We do. I'm gonna guess Dr. Hardy. You know, he likes, I still like saying that, so.
Never saw it.
I'm laughing because I'm not used to them saying Dr. Hardy, so it's kind of awkward. But thank you, Dr. Anderson. So it's my pleasure to present the auditors from Donahoe, Durando, Roy Tompkins, Mauricio Canto, he's the audit partner, Jaleesa Smith, she did the work, audit manager on site, so I'll turn it over to Mauricio to go over the audit. Thank you.
Good evening. Trustees, management. And I'm Mauricio Canto, a partner at Donahue, Durando, Doria Tompkins, responsible for signing the audit report. And our manager, Jaleesa Smith, is accompanying me. She's the one who was the lead auditor on this engagement. We were contracted to perform the independent audit of the financial statements of Passaic County Community College for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024. The audit is in draft form as presented. However, it is ready to be issued because the state has released all their reports on the pension and other post-employment liabilities sooner than they have in previous years. So the college should have no issues complying with the statutory deadline of December 31st. As in the past, we had the college had to request an extension because the state reports were delayed. As far as the audit, we are engaged to audit the financial statements, and we give an opinion on the financial statements, and we're happy to report that our opinion of financial statements is unmodified and states that the financial statements are fairly stated. Therefore, it's a clean opinion on the financial statements. And because it's a government entity, we also are required to take into consideration internal controls over financial reporting and report on any non-compliance that comes to our attention. And this is in respects to government auditing standards, and we issue a second opinion on government auditing standards, and we're happy to report that there were no findings on any weaknesses in internal controls that came to our attention, and there were no matters of non-compliance of reporting that came to our attention. And the third opinion that we report on is on the single audit, which is basically on the grants, and it has two components. One component is the federal component for federal major programs, and the state component, which is for any state major programs. With this one, we actually are required to audit some major programs, and that come up every year that are the majority of the federal and state funding, and then we rotate some other smaller grants every 3 years. With this, we're happy to report that there were no reportable matters in respects to internal control weaknesses or non-compliance in respect to the federal grants, or the audits of the federal grants and state grants. So there are no further comments in the report as far as any exceptions that we noted in reported matters. So it's overall a clean audit. This is not an easy accomplishment. This is about our 10th year auditing the financial statements of the college, and we're year after year, we're pleased to see the condition of the records continue to be in good order. I noted to the college that there have, during the finance committee meeting, that there have been some changes in personnel over the last few years, but it seems that things have been getting a lot better as they had gone a little bit downhill because of retirements or transitions retirements without proper transitions, to no one's fault, but just the way things went during the pandemic. But where you can definitely report or say that the condition of financial records are in much better condition than they were the year before. And that year they were better than the year before. So there is improvement. So we just wanted to mention that and give credit to where credit's due with the accounting and finance department. And with that, we just like to note that I'm sure it's something that you go over in your budget meetings, that enrollment did go up, and full-time equivalent credits did go up from in comparison to the prior year, about 2.82%. And we also like to bring to the attention the net position of the college. On a GAAP basis, which is generally accepted accounting principles, the net position is approximately $76 million, while in fiscal year it was $72 million. This, however, includes the net pension liability and lease liabilities that are required by GASB 68, and which is a government accounting standards board, and the lease liability. So this doesn't necessarily represent what the college has on a budgetary per se basis. So when we actually back those out, which is not something necessarily in the audit report, the unrestricted net position for the college after backing out the net pension liability and the net lease liability is approximately $10 million in fiscal year 24, which is 4.3 less than it was in fiscal year 23. That concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
I have a question, sir. You say that that this is not a draft anymore. Does that mean all the assumptions that you made in the draft are now final in the pension area?
Yes, that is correct.
So all those assumptions are final, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, I think maybe we should just maybe if you got your audits, turn to page 7. I just wanna just go over, you'll see the trends you see here in terms of enrollment are fairly typical of most colleges in the country right now. This is not terribly unusual. It shows that for those who don't have it in front of them, back in 2015, we had 5,649 FTE. Full-time, this is full-time equivalent students. What do? You take the total number of credits that students have generated, you divide it by 30, the average, and that's how you get FTE. If the head count is much higher, but this is just the way you can compare colleges one to another easily by doing that. If you take a look at, we went down, obviously, from 5,600 down to a low of 3,200. That's typical of colleges across the country right now. This is what's going on. What isn't as typical is that we're up for the past 2 years. And there are many colleges around the country that have continued the downward slide. And that's really great news for us. Just the fact that, if it was level, it would be great, and it's not up a lot. I mean, we're not kidding ourselves. It's not up a lot, and we do not anticipate over the next couple of years going up a lot. I mean, this is most colleges in the United States right now. This is where you're going to be. I mean, there is a demographic decline. In addition to fewer students graduating from high school, there are also fewer students from high school who are going to college. So we're fighting a lot of headwinds right now. So that's why we're really pleased by this. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make is just the fact that it's not down, it's up slightly. That's really good. And from what I obviously we haven't seen the comparison numbers for all the colleges this year, but we think we're in the top 2 or 3 in the state in terms of how we did last year. So, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and keep working at it hard, but, it's obviously very important. Unfortunately, the students that we serve at the college, students of color and, especially Hispanic students are unfortunately the ones who are not going to college today. And we've got to buck that trend. We've got to find ways to, work with our local communities and make sure these students are going to college. And so far it shows we're having some luck doing it, but it's not easy these days.
Thank you, President. Once again, we're independent auditors, but it is a pleasure working with you. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think this is important, that we do this every year. So any maybe Stephen, you want to just give the important number that we that's not in here?
Oh.
And maybe explain that a little to the full board. We talked about this when we were in the audit committee earlier today.
So we talk about operating because we show you the variance report, and so really what we're referring to is revenue that comes in for the operation for the business part of the college, the tuition, state aid, and the county, and then all the expenses, the faculty. So the difference of that, the reserve for the years is what we call O1, which is our unrestricted fund. That balance is about north of 20 million. As of June 30, that's going to decrease for a couple of reasons. One, we have the ESIP, which we are funding, which will be reimbursed for in about 2 years, but that's about $3.7 million there. We have a grant match that we're going to use to pay down the HX building. About complete with that's on PCIT campus. Thank you, PCTI campus, and then there's another about $400,000 to wrap up the firehouse, and then we tied 1.9 roughly to, we're saying we're going to use that for this year's budget, but that's the reserve we're referring to. So when I do the budget presentation in January, I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Council asks really thoughtful questions, so I'll exactly show you this audited number and where the 20 million is. That's just a high level overview of the audit. So the number right now is 20 million that it's in our operating reserve.
when Middle States was here last April, that was the number they were most interested in. You know, while they go through the audit and they want to make sure you have a clean audit and this and that, but the most important number is, it's basically how much do you have in the bank? And that's really what that number is. And in this day and age, you know, I think what COVID taught us more than anything else was the fact that things can turn around very quickly. As I said last month at the board meeting, back in 2017, we lost about 1,000 students during the first Trump administration. During that first year of the Trump administration, the talk of anti-immigration talk forced a lot of our students who are currently here at the college to basically go into hiding. I mean, that's what they said. I mean, and is that going to happen again at this point? I don't, my crystal ball isn't any better than anybody else's at this point, but it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, it's real.
You know, and in 2017, we had the first operating budget loss the only operating budget loss that we ever had. We lost all of these students in 1 year, and that's why it's so important, you know, just like in our home budgets, that we have some money in the bank just in case. And I don't know what the future is, you know, going to be, but what I do feel very good is we're in a good financial position to handle it, but it's not easy. It's right now.
Easy. Significant activities and variance reports.
Yep, just you see that there is a variance reported here, you know, just to highlight, that is the report that we give you each month, which shows how we're doing right now. And Stephen, you want to say anything about it?
Sure, so. Very important. That's where that 20 million is, again, based on the college's operation of the surplus or deficit, how much do they generate in over the life or the college, the surplus is approximately 20 million. Again, I'll show you that to you in more detail. The last column that you see that says forecast, that matches the budget. Usually what we like to see is we like to get 5 to 6 months under our belt. So we have a good idea of the trend for enrollment. It's basically once we get a half a year returning students, we can kind of project that pretty reasonably accurate. So that's one thing we'll know, have much better information on the forecast. And then the other thing we know is overhead or not overhead. Overload, thank you. Overload. So we paid our faculty overload, so we know the exact amount of that. So in January, you'll see a variance report, and the forecast differs from the budget, because then we'll have better information in terms of vacancies and all that. And so that will tell you what we think we're going to end it in the fiscal year. So for now,
There's no red flags.
So there's no red flags at this point.
So just a question about tuition and credit tuition. I'm assuming that those numbers actual year to date include money that's come in for next semester?
A small amount, yes.
Small amount.
Yes.
So then,
Students started registering about a month ago for spring semester, so.
That's a good catch, because that's a strong number for this point of the year. Yes. That's
We're up right now
Yeah.
for spring.
okay.
Whether we end up for.
No, I know, but
We're
am I
ahead.
reading to this that we were ahead for the fall?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
You can. Yes.
thank you.
Yep, it's all looking good.
And as Dr. Rose said, the key question, do I see any surprises? No, I do not see any surprises.
Well, let me ask you this though, in light of Dr. Rose's comments about what happened when Trump the first term, should we just think about putting together a rainy day fund?
That is the rainy day
Yeah,
fund. The 20 million is the rainy day fund.
Okay, yeah, so that is really what is a rainy, yeah, okay, that's.
and that's a good question. Not to keep dragging this out, but you know, oftentimes institutions, when they have this huge the surplus, they think, oh, we have to spend it right away. But you know, it's ebbs and flows, right? Good times, bad times. You need to have the money there for times like this, which we have, and we'll be able to write this out in the near future.
Yeah, no, prior to 2017, we were happy with $5-6 million in our rainy day fund. We thought that was enough. And with the immigration problems in 2017 and then the pandemic, we and every other institution have figured out that is not enough to have in your rainy day fund. Fortunately, we were able to build ours to a point where we feel comfortable. The colleges that are struggling today are the ones that haven't been able to build their funds to the same level.
Well, one follow-up question on that. What would Steve, what would happen if we did lose 1,000 students at the
We would have to probably, obviously we would tighten our belts immediately and do that. But in addition, we would end up having to use some of that money, and that's why you have it.
Oh, okay, I just wondering what the impact financially would be on us.
But we're in a strong enough position that we can sustain it. But from the time when we were at the peak of our enrollment, and actually going back 10 years is not the peak of our enrollment. Peak of our enrollment was 2011, when we were even higher than this. We have probably 30% less faculty and 30% less staff than we did back then. We had to right size the institution, and fortunately we've been able to manage it in such a way that we never had to do layoffs to get there. We were able to do it through normal attrition and changing positions around to make sure we're covering everything that needs to be covered. But we're happy we didn't have to furlough people and do those types of things. So
bottom line is well managed.
Yep.
We've got senior management here and we're in focus.
I'll give one more good report. So last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, a group of us were in Philadelphia for the Middle States Conference, and Dr. Knivi led a group of our staff, who all the people who came here and reported to you last year on Middle States, and they did a presentation. They had developed a presentation and was accepted at Middle States. Well, I gotta tell you, it was probably all my years doing this, it was probably one of my proudest moments, sitting in the audience watching them. They had about 200 people showed up for their presentation, which is a lot. And more importantly than the fact that 200 showed up, and many of you have been to conferences before, and I am willing to admit myself, if I go to a presentation, I usually sit at the back of the room, and if it's not any good, in 5 minutes, I leave. I'm not staying for a poor presentation. Well, I will tell you, I don't think a single person left this presentation that they did. It was packed at the beginning, it was packed at the end, and you were watching people. They had a PowerPoint up there, and people were taking pictures of all the PowerPoints that they had up there. They were fabulous in terms of the presentation that they made, but people were asking questions and people were coming up after and looking at it. And when Jackie made the announcement, she did the introduction to it, and she said, and yes, we had our visit last April and there were no recommendations. The entire place started applauding. It was special, and it was great to see that, and our people did great, and it was.
It may be a new revenue stream.
Put them on the road.
Yeah, put them on the road.
Recommendation.
No recommendation. When they said that, it was watching everybody applaud to that. That was good. It was a very proud moment, and that was good stuff. All right, moving on. PALS Plus, I think as you all know, we are part of the Passaic County Library System here at the college, and this is an agreement we determined is every 8 years or 10 years.
Remember for 25.
10 years was 10 years ago.
Okay, so this is our re-upping to be part of PALS Plus. What that means is that if any of the libraries in the county, if somebody, our catalog is part of it, and if anybody wants to borrow books, there's an interlibrary loan and books from here. Obviously our collection is a little different than most of your local libraries would have. So if somebody's looking for something special, they may find it here and not find it somewhere else. And that's why you have that kind of system. So we're happy to be part of that, and that's here as well. You got purchases of goods and services. Happy to answer any questions about any of those that are in here. Nothing too exciting this month. Some of you will remember when our former chair of our board, Pete Schultes, who for many years, Barbara remembers, his business was, he was in the elevator business, and he was alleged, and this would be the only thing that he'd ever focus on is the elevator maintenance contract that's coming up now, and he would have 1,000 questions on it when the elevator maintenance contract would come up, so.
Any questions at all? None? We have a motion to adopt resolution number 3, consent resolution items as set forth in the memoranda dated December 17, 2024. Balance trustee, purchase of goods and services, and personnel items. Move it. Second. Okay, second. Okay, roll.
Trustee Actor,
Yes.
trustee Drakeford. Yes. Trustee Golden,
Yes.
trustee Diogene,
Yes.
trustee Moody,
Yes.
trustee Poe. Yes. Trustee Ramirez.
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Tanis. Yes. Chairman Marco.
Yes. Are there any remarks from the public? Are there any remarks from the trustees? Happy holidays, everybody. We have a
And
motion.
please don't leave without your cookies.
We're happy. How did we get on the same days meetings now? Text board meeting was tonight.
We've been on the third Tuesday for the last 20 some odd years. Yeah, I know. Well, to those people.
Okay, we have to report to.
We're more fun than they are.
Yeah.
And here you get cookies.
That's right.
Oh, no, they do good. They do feed them well.
They already made that. Wait, no, tonight they called, it was like, you know, they said, we have your cookies, I said, just send it to the office, well, will you be there tomorrow? No, I'm on vacation after tomorrow, and Trent said, then I'm gone to.
Remember, you get pies for Thanksgiving.
They get high school. They follow that stuff. Oh, yeah, you know that. That's all. They wanna be us.
Yeah, they want to be it. Absolutely. There you go.
Sounds good, right?
Okay, can I, this, can we adjourn the meeting? We have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, hold, and then. Ian, like that. Roll call.
Trustee Oster,
Yes.
trustee Drakeford. Yes. Trustee Clifford,
Yes.
trustee Diogene,
Yes.
trustee Moody.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
oh, sorry, trustee Tanis,
Yes.
Chairman Marco.
Yes.
Happy holidays,
Happy
everybody.
holidays,
Good
everybody.
one all.
Happy holidays.
Safe travels for anybody traveling.
Bye. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Thank you for my cookies.
Happy
Bye,
holidays,
everybody.
everybody.
Trustee Smith. Trustee
They're bringing the chocolate.
Trustee Golden, wherever.